Welcome back. Today we're looking into the career path and particularly the recent events surrounding Ashley Buchanan.
Yes, quite a turn of events. He was, until very recently, the chief executive officer of Kohls.
Exactly. Appointed in January 2025, but, well, his time there was unexpectedly short. He was born back in 1974, Mount Pleasant, Texas.
And he came to Kohls with a pretty solid retail background, right? CEO at the Michaels companies before this.
That's right. And before Michaels, he had significant roles at Walmart, particularly in their e-commerce division, chief merchandising officer, chief operating officer there. So definitely experienced.
Establishes him as someone who knows the retail landscape, certainly.
And just briefly on his background, he went to Baylor University, played NCAA division tennis, actually.
Oh, interesting. Academically?
Yes. He got his BBA in finance and real estate in 96 and then followed up with an MBA, also from Baylor, in 98.
Okay, so a solid business education foundation there.
Definitely. And before we really dig into the Kohl situation, maybe quickly touch on his career path after that MBA.
Sure. Well, his first role seems to have been with Bank of America, starting around 96, maybe overlapping a bit with his studies, or just before the MBA.
Okay.
Then after the MBA, from 1998 to 2004, he was at Accenture, working as a retail consultant.
Makes sense given his later career.
It does. Then a stint at Dell Computers between 2004 and 2007 as a finance manager.
Right.
And then came the long period at Walmart from 2007 all the way to 2020.
13 years. That's quite a tenure.
It is. The first decade was focused on Walmart US, handling various business segments.
And then he moved over to Sam's Club.
Yes. In February 2017, appointed chief merchant for Sam's Club.
Okay.
By 2019, he climbed higher, becoming executive vice president and chief merchandising officer for Walmart.com.
So right in the thick of their push into digital retail, competing online.
Exactly. Focused on enhancing that digital platform, making it more competitive.
Which leads us to Michaels. He became CEO there in 2020.
Correct. CEO and also joined their board of directors.
And during his time there, Michaels actually went private, didn't it?
It did. In March 2021, it was announced that Apollo Global Management, the private equity firm, was acquiring the Michaels companies.
Right, taking it off the public market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that brings us up to Kohls. He takes the helm in January 2025.
Yes. But then, just a few months later, May 1st, 2025, the Kohls board terminated his employment.
And the reason given was quite specific, of violation of company policies.
Yes, policies related to conflicts of interest, specifically involving a vendor.
And there was an external investigation, I understand.
There was. It concluded that Buchanan had, directed Kohls to engage in transactions where these undisclosed conflicts of interest existed.
The board deemed that grounds for dismissal for cause?
Correct. And they were very specific in stating this termination wasn't related to Kohls' financial performance or its reporting or operations.
So strictly an ethics issue, according to the board, and no other employees implicated.
That's what the company stated, yes. Not related to financials, operations, or other personnel.
So with Buchanan out, who stepped in?
Michael Bender was appointed interim CEO effective immediately.
Bender. He was already on the board, wasn't he?
Yes, since July 2019. And he'd actually just become board chair in May 2024.
So an internal appointment, someone familiar with the company?
Exactly. Though with the interim CEO role, he stepped down as chair and from some board committees, naturally.
And they've started looking for a permanent replacement.
Yes. The company announced they've initiated a search using a leading executive search firm.
Okay. Now, around the same time, Kohls also released some preliminary financial numbers for the first quarter of 2025.
They did. Kind of managing expectations, perhaps, given the leadership upheaval.
What did those look like?
Well, they anticipated comparable sales would decline, somewhere between 4.3% and 4.0%.
Okay, a drop there. And operating income?
Projected between $40 million and $45 million.
Right. And the bottom line, earnings per share?
Expected to be a loss, actually, between -$0.24 and -$0.24 on a diluted basis.
So some headwinds there financially, even if the dismissal wasn't directly related. When do the final results come out?
The official earnings announcement is scheduled for May 29th, 2025.
Got it. And before we move on, just a reminder, if you're finding this analysis helpful, please do take a moment to like this discussion and subscribe for more updates.
Good point. Now, getting back to the consequences for Buchanan himself.
Yes. What happened regarding his compensation and standing with the company?
Well, as a result of the termination for cause, he forfeits all his equity awards from Kohls. That includes any recruitment incentives he might have received.
Significant financial impact there, I imagine.
Definitely. And on top of that, he's required to reimburse Kohls for a portion of his signing bonus.
Oh, really? How much?
A prorated amount, totaling $2.5 $25 million.
Wow. Okay. And his board seat, he was likely nominated for election at the upcoming shareholder meeting.
He was, but the board formally withdrew that nomination, so no director role going forward.
Understandable, given the circumstances. Now, there were some reports about the specifics of the vendor conflict, weren't there?
Yes, details started to emerge. Reports indicated the vendor transactions involved a woman named Chandra Holt.
And the connection to Buchanan.
She's a former colleague of his from Walmart, and reports suggest that they had a prior personal relationship.
I see. And the investigation found what exactly regarding this vendor?
It apparently found that Buchanan directed Kohls to enter into a consulting agreement with Holt's company, a multi-million-dollar agreement.
Okay.
And the terms were considered, well, unusually favorable, according to the reports.
And the core issue was the lack of disclosure.
Precisely. It was determined Buchanan didn't disclose his relationship with Holt, which, breached Kohl's code of ethics regarding conflicts of interest.
Has Holt commented on this?
Yes. In a statement to the Wall Street Journal, she acknowledged knowing Buchanan professionally for about 10 years.
But she denied any impropriety.
Yes. She denied any financial wrongdoing related to her business, which is called Incredibrew, and its dealings with Kohls.
And her background. She's also experienced in retail.
Very much so. Executive roles at Target, Sam's Club, where she overlapped with Buchanan Walgreens, Conn's Home Plus, and Beyond Inc.
Okay. So how was this news communicated internally at Kohls?
Staff were informed about Buchanan's termination in a meeting on May 1st, the day it happened.
Must have been quite a shock for employees.
I imagine so. The interim CEO, Michael Bender, and other executives led the meeting. The aim was apparently to reassure employees.
Did they go into detail? Take questions?
Reports suggest they didn't provide extensive details or hold a Q&A session at that time. They primarily emphasized, again, that the dismissal wasn't linked to the company's financial performance.
Trying to contain the narrative and focus on the ethics breach.
Seems that way. And interestingly, after the news became public,
Yes?
Kohl's shares reportedly saw an increase in value.
Perhaps the market reacting positively to decisive action on a governance issue.
That's one interpretation. Yes, removing uncertainty or perceived ethical concerns can sometimes bolster investor confidence, even amidst leadership turmoil.
So wrapping this up then, we have Ashley Buchanan, clearly an experienced retail executive with history at Walmart, Michaels.
Comes into Kohl's as CEO. High expectations, perhaps?
But a very short tenure, ending abruptly due to violating company policy on conflicts of interest with a vendor.
An undisclosed conflict led to his termination for cause, the appointment of an interim CEO.
And financial consequences for him personally forfeited equity bonus clawback.
While the company itself adjusted its near-term financial outlook downwards, though stating it was unrelated to the termination reason.
A stark reminder of the importance of governance and ethics at the executive level.
Absolutely. The consequences can be swift and severe.
Well, that covers the key events surrounding Ashley Buchanan and Kohls. A fascinating and cautionary tale in corporate leadership.
Yeah.
We hope this breakdown was informative. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps us continue these discussions.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon with another analysis. Goodbye for now.